You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another podcast. This is Time Enough Podcast, where we talk about the Twilight Zone, anthology shows, things like that. But we are right smack in the middle of, well, not really smack in the middle of the first season of the original show, but we are a few down the road here. This is Matt. The other guy today is Mark Malek. Hello.
Hi, here I am.
Are you ready to get judged
Ah!
for your judgment night?
No, Dennis Leary, don't cut me. I'm a suburban white man. I didn't do anything wrong.
See, all I remember is the soundtrack. I don't.
I just
the
remember
movie at
Dennis
all.
Leary just being vaguely threatening for no reason. I guess they saw something.
I think I saw it opening night. Who knows? I might have been with you to see that on opening night, but or
I'm
was it
sure
the
I
Dollar
saw
Theater?
that opening night. I remember it being pretty underwhelming with a great soundtrack. The soundtrack is still great.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on there. But yeah, I haven't seen it since. What I have seen, of course, is this episode of The Twilight Zone entitled Judgment Night, which is better than the movie Judgment Night.
Judgment Night.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
There's a relatively large ensemble cast for this, so I kept it a little bit slim, I guess, for the trivia, as not to bore people too much. But yeah, there are. The point is, there are definitely some good actors in here. I'm just like not really getting into at the moment. So for the ones I am getting into, how do we say the name? Nehemiah. I think Nehemiah Persoff plays Carl Lancer. Yes, an immigrant from Jerusalem is playing the German commander. He appeared in major films like Some Like It Hot and The Greatest Story Ever Told. He had a slew of other TV roles on shows such as The Untouchable, Hawaii Five-0, and some sci-fi with Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek The Next Generation. He was I think he was the collector trying to collect data and the most toys.
Nice.
He retired to paint in 1999, and the dude is still alive as of this recording at age 102.
He still has not been judged yet.
He has not been judged yet. So I was quite, because he doesn't look that young in this episode, so
people looked older back then.
Even if James Franciscus is in this, just saying. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he was as I told you, he was Charlton Heston's sort of replacement in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and I feel like he was the template for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like Brad Pitt's character probably. So
okay,
bit of wait, Brad Pitt was the man or the stunt?
He was the stunt man.
Who was the man? Matt Damon. Okay.
Leo DiCaprio.
See, I'm just big there, and like I can't tell white people apart.
Charles Manson.
Yeah, Charles Manson. He played Charles Manson. Director John Bram was born in Hamburg and had quite a resume of feature films such as The Undying Monster, The Lodger, and The Mad Magician in 3D. I think I want to see The Mad Magician in 3D. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. As for this episode, I'm going to blast those words into your face in a moment. Whoa. There's too many buttons. I lost my rhythm for once. That's too bad. It's coming. Oh, that's the last one. Ignore that. That's the one from the last episode. Clear.
What? I'm so confused.
Yeah, don't read that again, because that episode was like, well, for us it was 30 minutes ago, but in real life it's like a few months ago.
Still iPad stuff?
What?
Oh,
no.
Nothing. I was like, how's your iPad have a cursor? All right, I'm not seeing all of it.
You're about to, I think.
Okay.
Okay, just
start and you're gonna scroll.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to edit it. Oh well, I thought I'd get away without editing, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Yes, I know I'm screen sharing, you bastard. Let me
imagine this. If you will, a blank screen.
Imagine a blank screen. There we go. You got everything now. And this thing.
Your name. Oh, okay, ready?
Is this? Am I covering it? Can you see everything?
I can see all of it, I think.
Okay,
Yes.
go for it.
Her name is the SS Queen of Glasgow. Her registry, British. Gross tonnage, 5,000. Age, indeterminate. At this moment, she's one day out of Liverpool, her destination, New York. Duly recorded on the ship's log is the sailing time, course to destination, weather conditions, temperature, longitude, and latitude. But what is never recorded in the log is the fear that washes over a deck like fog and ocean spray. Fear like the throbbing strokes of engine pistons, each like a heartbeat parceling out of every hour into breathless minutes of watching, waiting, and dreading. For the year is 1942, and this particular ship has lost its convoy. It travels alone like an aged blind thing groping through the unfriendly dark, stalked by unseen periscopes of steel killers. Yes, the Queen of Glasgow is a frightened ship, and she carries with her a premonition of death.
I just assume that means it smells funny.
Yeah,
Premonition of death. Yeah.
haggis, Queen of haggis.
Queen of haggis. That sounds good. Okay. Yeah, so we're on the boat of the damned for this episode, basically. Just right off the bat, this one definitely has a nice feeling of dread through the whole episode. Like the where you don't even like uh know exactly what you're freaked out about, you know?
Yeah, that's a it's really good that it leads with a cipher who basically is doesn't know what's going on at all. In fact, I dare say I didn't feel like I knew what was going on at all until towards the end, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, one thing that did take me out of it immediately was why is there such a nice dining room on a cargo ship? They got that swank bar.
I was the thing that got me was why does everyone care if this random dude eats? Man, they people are really nice here. It's really strange.
Well,
But
it's
it
a
turns out there was sort of a reason for that.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're all on their pins and
They're not
needles, right?
well, they're not real,
Right.
right?
Well, I wrote my note was, is this a real place? So many heightened characters. Followed by
Well,
Mr. Lanz is already dead, isn't he? Bruce Willis style.
see, you're smarter than I am. I was just like, whoa, people were really nice in 1959, 1960.
Well, just a bit after that, I typed Mr. Lanza is tripping balls.
Mm.
um, all the fogginess is kind of cool. You know, John Carpenter knew what to do with the fog, but
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of The Shining. It was sort of like if The Shining was a little more hostile, I guess,
The
or
Shining,
less,
The
or
Shining was
less.
pretty hostile.
Yeah, that's not fair. I guess if the Shining was on a boat,
I
that's my pitch.
I think I mentioned it, but we recently had the family viewing of The Shining, and when Scatman Crothers bites it, it was just the most fantastic reaction with my wife shrieking and my daughter giggling. Neither of
Yes, I
them had seen it
remember.
before.
I remember. I remember your wife being kind of afraid of a lot of things, like what Metroid Prime 3.
Yeah. Well, she didn't. She was like, "Oh, you can watch that with Dad." But eventually, it just turned out for around the TV, we're all there, so she had to watch The Shining and Aliens. Alien, excuse me, no S.
Oh, yeah, Alien is pretty scary
Yeah, yeah,
until I
that's
think until the alien shows up and does like jazz hands at you, and then it's not as scary. But
right. I did see Spaceballs before I saw Alien, so the
oh, that
chest
makes
burst.
it scarier, maybe.
Oh no,
You know.
so I always just like in my mind an Alien, the chest burster is doing the dance, you know, like in the actual movie Alien.
Yeah, yeah, Spaceballs feels like a canon Alien sequel to me.
But yeah, that bar though, man, it's just so nice. Sorry, I
Hmm.
really got to keep throwing that in. So
I think but I think isn't that like Mr. Lancer's guilt, where he's just basically like, oh my god, I keep killing all these people. Their bar must be so nice. They must be such nice people. They must really care about, I feel like this is part of his like private hell.
I wonder if it keeps getting nicer with every iteration. So like after a few hundred years of this, it starts to become like the Titanic, and then it becomes like Biff's Pleasure Palace, and
becomes like everyone is hooking up with him over and over.
right. Yeah. So, because I mean, I don't know. Can you really stay in hell forever? I mean, eventually you have to evolve, don't you?
Well, the idea of hell being a repeating loop goes almost directly against the idea of the film Groundhog Day, which I think is generally agreed to be a good representation of Zen Buddhism, right? I mean,
Yeah. When
even
time
though
becomes a
I think
loop.
that
When time becomes a
uh,
loop. When time becomes a loop.
when
Sorry.
time becomes a loop, now I do kind of take issue that the idea of Groundhog Day is the idea is to break the loop, you have to have sex with Andy McDowell. That doesn't really feel to me like the fulfillment of Zen, but
It's Bill Murray's then.
sure.
I
It's
guess.
Hollywood Zen. That's the most Hollywood Zen thing. Oh, you just have to have sex with the most attractive person in your time loop.
Now
That's all you have to do.
I heard a suggestion that what he had to do to get out of the timer was actually to buy the insurance.
Oh yeah,
Because he
that'd be
doesn't
good.
buy the insurance until the final iteration. That
That's
and sex.
That's great. I love that.
I know
I
that
hadn't
makes
thought about that.
he finally accepts that really annoying dude. I forget his name, but because he's not in this show. No one in this show is that. Well, I guess they are a little annoying there
No.
too. But yeah, that's why I thought I was making like a little joke about the bar and stuff. And I'm like, well, what if? I mean, he has to keep experience this thing, but the boat itself keeps getting nicer and nicer and more fantastical. Does
Yeah, I mean, maybe the lady is more on fire each time.
I mean, how much punishment does the guy deserve? He deserves plenty, but when we're talking like eternities, can you evolve out of that eventually?
The the part of this that doesn't work to me is basically at the end you see the part where it's, I guess, reality, and he's in on the German boat, and then he's having a conversation with the other crewman, and he's just like, haha, what are you, just a silly mystical whatever belief and sad boy? And then the guy just says like, but those are people. And he says something kind of innocuous, and then all of a sudden he's like, what? And that doesn't work. That's not a very realistic
Yeah, I wrote
thing. I don't.
mystics suggest you do nothing horrible in general, right?
Yeah,
The good ones, at
it's
least.
it's a weird thing where conversations don't change people's minds like that, even though I guess they wrote themselves into a corner and just had to figure out how to put them into the story real quick, because
I
the
sort of saw that
interesting
as a
stuff was.
flashback to the original situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because there doesn't, I mean, there in the dreams, we'll call it a dream or beyond situation, or the Twilight Zone situation. The U-boat itself probably doesn't have any, like, just it would have NPCs at best, right?
Yeah, but I mean the point is, like, the guy on the U-boat is real, and the people on the boat, people on the Glasgow, Lady of Glasgow,
Queen, come on, give
Queen of Glasgow.
she's your Royal Highness.
She's dead. Anyway, it struck me as a little bit
God
odd
sink
the
the
way
Queen.
he it struck me as a little odd how he just sort of was, he went from being like a complete sadist to being like, wait, what? Uh-oh. And then I guess it didn't explain how he got into the time loop. I guess he died later.
Oh yeah, that's
I
good. Yeah, I mean, he's in a U-boat. It's a pretty hazardous job in 1942.
It would have been really fun if they just had that conversation and he was like, wait, what? They're humans? And then they just blew up like completely. It was just destroyed
Yeah, I mean,
right
maybe he
then.
lived to be a very old man, and then the time loop starts after that. I don't know.
I don't know, but the time loop part of this was much more compelling than the explanation. But
Now,
also, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, he's not. I guess he's not a Nazi though. He's just a commander.
What do you mean? I mean, is it World War II?
It's World War II, right?
So yeah, he's a Nazi. I mean, it's like you could you can be a member of the Nazi party without genuinely believing in the Nazi ideology, but it's like you were a Nazi if you're in the
Yeah, I
Nazi
guess.
party.
Yeah, I
It's
guess you
like a
had to.
lot of people, it's the whole thing where you can accept people being like, well, we didn't know, but they were Nazis.
Yeah, I guess he would have been given the card by this point. You know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe I'm not super up to enough on my history. Maybe he didn't know that a bunch of concentration camp stuff was going on. Maybe the sub commanders didn't all know that.
I
Who
mean, they probably didn't. I
knows?
mean, you're still blowing people up
Probably
though.
didn't.
My
Yeah.
my point is he's not SS.
Yeah.
You know, like
That's true. He was not,
he's not Christopher Waltz in Inglorious Bastards, you know?
yeah, he was not doing a bunch of experiments on
Right.
people.
Right. Although he was
Probably.
blowing them up with torpedoes, so that wasn't cool.
Yeah, and he was super into it. Like, oh, you have a problem with my blowing things up in the submarine? Oh, you silly mystic. Oh. Anyway, but my basic summary of this episode though is just it's the William Shatner airplane episode if William Shatner went back in time and was also the Gremlin.
So
Or
he's
no, it was
still
just, the Gremlin went back in time and then was also William Shatner.
could the gremlin on the plane be like 90-year-old Shatner in a spacesuit?
I mean, I'm kind of surprised that nobody made that joke, to be honest. You could just do it like what was that X-Men comic where the Phoenix goes back in time and becomes a Phoenix or whatever it is, and then Shatner could just go back in time and become the Gremlin
Yeah.
on the airplane.
They could do that digitally, can't they?
Sure. I don't know why they don't. I mean, Amazon could do it for their streaming series
We just
of
mentioned the
something.
we mentioned the Twilight Zone movie where they recreate that episode. What if it's John Lithgow inside the plane and Shatner outside the plane?
That's pretty awesome. I think John Lithgow would really be upset, and it would
Yeah,
be very funny.
right. Because he did a good job in his iteration of it too. So you don't want to
Yeah,
slag off.
honestly, I think John Lithgow's a better actor than William Shatner. Don't tell William Shatner I said that.
But nobody Shatner's harder than Shatner. That's his thing, right?
Yeah, he's got it. Yeah, he's got a thing. He does his thing, but
The
also the guy in this episode. What's the actor's name again? Whatever.
you're gonna make me
Colonel
pronounce that again?
Commander. No. Commander Lancer. Great actor. He absolutely flips out when the U-boat shows up. He's
Yeah, and he does exactly the right
fantastic.
thing. He just gets piss ass drunk. You know, he knows exactly the time that they're going out. So time to hit that bar, I guess.
Yeah, he knows exactly what's happening, but he has no idea why he knows what's happening, which is probably very terrifying. That's almost the definition of paranoia. Is
Yeah.
you know what's happening, but you don't know why you know what's happening, and you don't know why it's happening, and you don't know who you are, and you don't know why you're there, and you don't know how you got there.
Well, that's the fun of the Twilight Zone, isn't it?
He is in the twilight. Yeah, this is a he's there, man. He's there.
I mean, if you want, we can go straight to the tripometer.
Okay.
I mean, we yeah, this one seems a little trippy. On that one to five
1 to
being positive
5.
with decimals. Okay,
3.8.
7. Okay, I
Yeah.
always go one lower than you. That's interesting. Last one you said 2.1. I said 2.0. So okay.
I am an optimist.
Okay. Anyway, we're I guess we're pretty close. It's a pretty tripped out one, you know, trippy concept. So
Yeah.
not so Judeo-Christian, I suppose, except for well, it's a abstract hell, so you don't really have to tie in, you know, like Jesus, God, and the devil, right?
It's the personal touch, which I think is kind of a Judeo-Christian thing where you get your own personal anything where it's like your own personal hell, personal heaven is a little bit like that because it just sort of personifies that there is infinite space somewhere in a realm for you to continue existing as a human forever, which is both very Christian and kind of patently ridiculous. But
Well, what if we say it's the same place and you are creating your own heaven or your own hell? Like this guy, if he wasn't so, you know, guilt ridden, this would be his heaven. Again, that's where I'm talking about evolution and like, okay, maybe the ship slowly gets nicer and things slow, you know, he eventually starts to break through the guilt, or you know, this could be millions of years of the cycle or whatever, right? So
Well, if you take that it's a simulation, I guess if he doesn't take up as much space as a human being does, then maybe that would allow for everyone who's ever lived on Earth to have their own private hell or
right,
heaven.
but it's his own simulation, right? So
Yeah, it's still just that's a tough one.
see, I've gotten tripped out enough where I'm starting to have trouble distinguishing like what an afterlife would be and what dreams are, you know. So because you could
Yeah, but you know how much you know that when you go to a dream that there's not like an entire submarine in there that's physically in in your dream. That's sort of that's the thing that's weird to me is that where is this? If he continued on if he got off the boat and swam, what would happen? I can't stop myself from thinking about all the different possibilities.
probably pretty cold though. I mean, he wouldn't last in the water very long either.
Yeah,
Probably.
it's like the thing. I may bring this up in future Twilight Zone episodes, but the thing that works for me along those lines is the film Dark City, where if you it does address like if you try to get off out of Dark City, you just get on the subway and then you just show back up, and then you forget who you are.
Right,
But
right.
we don't have time within a single Twilight Zone episode unless it's just about that, which I'm sure there is one I'm not. I know there's one I'm not thinking of that does exactly that, but I can't remember.
Yeah. With the it wasn't actually a Twilight Zone, it was the precursor, which is the time element. And that one has the guy dreaming every night of being back in World War or at Pearl Harbor, right? On December 6th. And the dream ends just as the planes are invading, and finally, you know, once the dream doesn't end, he just like blinks out of existence.
Yikes.
Yeah. So it was a little bit more ham-fisted, but you know, it's definitely the dry run for this show. And this episode seems to be a bit of a kind of a revision of that basic concept.
Yeah,
So
I mean, war is hell. That's you could sum it up like that. War is just a terrifying. I mean, this honestly is like a super sanitized, fun version of war.
yeah,
If you won't come right down to it.
yeah, because you get to know when you're dying, and you can sit around drinking at the bar until it happens.
He doesn't lose an arm or anything. He doesn't see anybody else.
He
He
probably
doesn't see
blasted
anybody
to atoms.
splatter. Yeah. You don't get attached to someone and then have to like watch them bleed out.
Yeah,
None of that happens.
right.
You can't really have that on television this day
Not
and age. Even just
1960.
having subversive ideas, it's like, oh no. Yeah, because, Americans.
Well, there's actually, when I was researching this one, there's a quote from Rod Serling doing an interview, where he was like, "Yeah, it's really annoying because if you want to have matches in your episode, it has to be like blah 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 brand matches. This episode, I think, someone offers coffee on deck, and the script actually said tea, but their sponsor made coffee, so they had to change it.
Oh, jeez.
The plus side, he was saying that was pretty much the only thing that had disrupted the show up to that point. So, but that was
I know. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So it seemed in general he was getting to do what he wanted to do, but he was like, "Gee, I hope no one figures out they can sell water, for this episode."
Yeah, Rod Serling was definitely a subversive guy and he got a lot of ideas in. But you get the feeling that if the wrong people were paying attention to this show, that it would have been absolutely cut to shreds.
Oh yeah,
It's just
I
sort
mean,
of a miracle that it made it through.
I mean,
Or maybe
the '80s one I haven't seen probably since the '80s. I never saw the early 2000s one. I haven't seen the Jordan Peele one yet, but I guess the fact that it has such a up in front showrunner, at least, recalls the original show.
I have definitely seen the 80s one. I saw all of the 80s one. I remember that being a little bit more hardcore, more like there was sort of a run of kind of more violent sci-fi TV during that
Right.
period, like War of the Worlds TV show and Alien Nation, where it was just a lot of like weird body horror. V, things like that were just a little more intense. Like there was stuff in the Alien Nation TV show that I watched as a kid that I had to look away from. It was just too much. It might not be anything compared to TV now, but
Yeah. The other thing with the 80s is I said that before in this podcast, but I definitely kind of prefer Tales of the Dark Side if we're going 80s.
yeah, Tales of the Dark Side was great.
Yeah. That like for me, that actually did hit the Twilight, the original shows button almost, not quite as good, but definitely the concepts were like stronger, I think, on that show. So than the
Well, I
80s.
mean, even though I sort of like made fun of Tales from the Crypt in the last episode we did, it's also really good. Even though you had to have, I guess, HBO to watch Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, I
So
guess that's why I never really saw it.
naturally that meant it had a lot of money. But
I mean, that's not an excuse not to see it now. Now it's just that, haven't gotten around to it, right?
it was very good and you should watch it when you get a chance.
So the last couple questions I want to throw out on this one.
Mhm.
I guess it's just this one dude in the Twilight Zone because everyone else is a figment of his imagination.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. He is
right.
alone in the Twilight Zone.
Okay, so we got that. Now we've already been talking like, does he deserve it? Yeah. Does he deserve it for eternity? That's I guess I keep throwing that out because that's the one that, I feel like nothing should be eternal, right?
I mean, he was just following orders,
Which is a horrible
probably.
excuse, but
It is a horrible excuse.
for eternity, it's not.
I mean, that only works if you presume that everyone with his rank also got a similar punishment. But also, they took a little bit of time at the end to just show him being kind of a dick.
Right.
So that generally, if you're kind of a dick in the Twilight Zone, then you will be punished horribly. it's it is it's not like a black and white moral universe, but it definitely is sort of a thing where you are severely punished for being kind of a dick.
Maybe that's where the bit of the Judeo-Christian thing comes in because it's like it's heaven or hell, folks. That's it.
Yeah, it's not exactly a chick tract, but I don't think that chick tracts are entirely dissimilar.
They're not. They're pretty Twilight Zone-ish, just with a southern redneck Bible beating vibe behind it. That Rod Serling was too slick for.
Yeah, and kind of metal art.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, the whole point is you can't really come to a conclusion on that. So it's something to stew about. Maybe tomorrow I feel differently about it. You see a couple of horrible news reports, and people suck.
Yeah, that's why it's good. I mean, I every day I'll deal with people where I'm just like, you should just die and go into a time loop. And I don't actually feel like that, but in the moment, you're just like, just go into a time loop, you piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, there is a certain thing where you choose to kill someone or you choose not to kill someone. And his like, there's people on that boat. Of course, there's people on the boat. If nothing else, there's like a pilot and a couple of hands, right?
It might have worked better if it was something like it showed them attacking the boat, and then the dudes on the boat were like, yeah, it's just a boat. It's just a regular boat. You don't. And then the commander was just like, no, we must punish them, stupid Americans.
That might be
Like
too much
maybe they could
mustache
have gone
twirling.
farther. But that would have we probably wouldn't have had as much of a conversation about whether he deserved it or not if that was the case. But
Right.
it's I don't know. I also just maintain that he probably would get used to it after a while and would just start drinking with
Drinking at the
ghosts.
bar.
Yeah, he would just be like, "Well, you're a
Ghost at the bar.
ghost. I'm gonna have a drink with you."
Why
I
not?
it's a weird thing where watching people die over and over would strip you of your humanity, even though we like to think otherwise, like it will just get more and more terrible, but you would just get bored of it, if
Right.
especially if you know they're not real.
Right.
He would
So
we're probably seeing his first time loop, unless I guess it's a thing where he doesn't know he's in the time loop every time the time loop starts,
yeah, it
and
seems
that's how
that
it
he's,
works.
but I don't know. He has his premonition, so it's like the memory's not there, right? But he's got certain, feelings. So those could evolve over time. This
Well,
would
that
be a real interesting one to make, like, the, after a million years in the time loop, is it looping exactly the same or differently? You could probably get an interesting, like, episode out of that.
yeah, or just something happens where he snaps and realizes what actually happened. Oh, I'm in the year 30,000.
Right. So that could be cool. Yeah. Anyway, it's a nice jumping board. So obviously, it seems to work pretty well. It's an episode of this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed it a lot. The actor, however his name is pronounced, was really going for it. He was great.
Yeah, I don't want to even try to say it again because I'm pretty sure I didn't get it right. And he's still around. He can complain.
Yeah, he yeah, right into this podcast. We said your name wrong. No, he
That
did a great job, and I'm always on board with vagueness, like not disorientation, not knowing what's going on.
yeah.
That's just the best.
That's the Twilight Zone, right? Uh, as for this one, if
So
you do
it
want to
is.
write in and complain, Time Enough Podcast, type those 3 words in exactly, and hopefully it shows up on Facebook or Twitter, or I'm making a horrible pitch here. So I use pitch. There we go. Okay. As far as we have other podcasts, including this one on Patreon under the name Podcastius. I talk about sci-fi movies there at Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. I talk about weird ephemeral films with Oral Hygiene. Sometimes Mark hangs out there. And we have some folks talking about the monster hunters and those pocket monster things of that nature. So
you can find me at Stunrunner Music on Twitter. I don't tweet much, and I don't put out music much.
by February you can do it, right? It's February.
I don't know. Is
Future.
it February?
This is
Or
February.
is it 1942?
This is Judgment Night in the Twilight Zone.